32 H&R Magnum is better than you think. So today I'm going to test our Federal Hydra-Shok Deep in 32 H&R Magnum and 38 Special+P. So our 32 H&R Magnum is an 85 grain jacketed hollow point rated at 1,025 feet per second through a 4-inch V barrel. I'm going to use my 4.2-inch Ruger SP101 and 327 Federal to test that. And our 38 Special+P is a 130 grain jacketed hollow point rated at 900 feet per second, again through a 4-inch V barrel. I'm going to use my 4-inch barrel Smith & Wesson 686 to test that. So 32 H&R Magnum is sometimes misunderstood. You know, it's a great little cartridge, has a very low bullet weight and moves faster than 38 Special, so you get better hollow point expansion, reliability oftentimes. And the main thing about it though is a lot of people look at the performance and say, well, it's not that much better than other stuff, but they don't realize that the recoil is so incredibly low with the 32 H&R Magnum that's kind of a niche round for some people that need a lower recoil option. So we're going to see how our 32 H&R Magnum compares to our 38 Special+P. So I'm going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy I get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic gel test. So I'm going to go into plain 10% clear ballistics to see what the best potential of those cartridges are. No denim in the way or anything like that to clog a hollow point, so we can see what our best potential is for hollow point expansion and all of that. Then I'll do more of a real world simulation where I'm going to have 4 layers of denim on this first 3-inch piece that represents a pectoral muscle. After that, we're going to have a 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard to represent hitting ribs or sternum, 16 more inches of clear ballistics, then another 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard at the back to represent hitting back ribs. Clear ballistics is roughly a half representation of the density of flesh, so 3 inches and 16 inches is more like an 1.5 inches and 8 inches in an actual flesh target. So we're really trying to simulate about a 9.5-inch individual with front and back ribs on there with fabric on the front. So we'll do a plain clear ballistics shot, best potential shot, and then move on to do a real world simulation shot. And then I will shoot at the steel target to see what kind of practical accuracy and shootability I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. All right, first up we have our 38 Special fired through my 4-inch barrel Smith & Wesson 686. It's rated at 900 feet per second through a 4-inch V barrel, which is a factory test barrel that has, you know, a cut in it to represent a cylinder gap. So let's see how close I get to 900 feet per second out of my Smith & Wesson 686 here. .853, 886, 881, 869, 865. So a little bit below that rated velocity. Pretty close, but just a little bit below that. Now our 32 H&R Magnum here, 85 grain rated at 1,025 feet per second. Again through a 4-inch V barrel. I'm using my 4.2-inch Ruger SP101. So let's see what we get with this, see how close we get to 1,025. .985, 977, 946, 949, 941. So we had maybe roughly 80 feet per second more, but less recoil with this for sure. And that's the thing that I really like to take home with this, is that the recoil is a lot less when you're talking guns like this. And this is a 29.5 ounce revolver. This is a 40.3 ounce revolver. This had less recoil out of this gun than the 38 had out of that gun. And a 38 out of a gun like this has less recoil than a 9mm. So you're really kind of getting close to like 22 caliber type recoil, but more effective for its terminal ballistics. So let's hit our ballistics gel block and see how these two compare. All right, first up we'll do our plain clear ballistics gel shot. No denim in the way to potentially clog a hollow point. No rib simulation in there to potentially slow down its penetration. So 38 Special+P, let's see what this does. All right, let's hit that with our 32 H&R Magnum. Let's go take a look. All right, so both of those got some obvious expansion because they didn't over penetrate. Both of them had good energy dump, dumping its energy and tearing in that first 3-inch piece. Both of them had pretty good looking wound channels. So our 38 Special plus P on the bottom here, our 32 H&R on top. Our 32 actually looks a little bit bigger there from that view. Then when we go into the main gel block here, both are pretty similar. It does look like right about here, the 38 has a bigger channel there, but it could just be from tumbling around with that expanded hollow point. So I can't really see through the gel, beyond that bubbling mark there to see how well the expansion is with our 38, but I'm going to say it looks expanded because it didn't penetrate that far. We stopped right at 15 inches with our 38 Special plus P. And our 32 H&R Magnum matched that. It also stopped right there at 15 inches of penetration. So looking at this, these look like they're doing equal in our plain clear ballistics shot, which is impressive being one has like half the recoil of the other. So let's put on our fabric, put in our rib simulation, and see how these compare in our real world simulation. All right, we'll do our real world simulation. 4 layers of denim followed by 3 inches of clear ballistics that represents hitting a pectoral muscle, followed by a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard that's going to represent hitting ribs or sternum. 16 more inches of clear ballistics, then another 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard at the back to represent hitting back ribs. So let's see how our 38 plus P does. All right. Let's hit that with our 32 H&R Magnum. Let's go take a look. Wow, I wasn't expecting that to arc down so far. I did not hit the other bullet or the other channel, so we're good on that account there. So looking at our first 3-inch piece here, we definitely had a little bit more energy dump with our 38 versus our 32 H&R Magnum. And I know a lot of people lately have been saying, well, that's not a real term, energy dump, and maybe it's not in the firearms ballistic testing world, but it's something that I have coined to mean basically, how much does it expand in this first 3 inches? Because rounds that typically do expand right here typically do a little bit better than ones that expand slower in the real world situations that happen. So going through our rib simulation, interesting here, our 38 is kind of a weird shaped expansion hole, as where our 32 H&R Magnum just expanded and went through, which is kind of weird. And I can kind of see why it does that like that. When we look at our 38, there's petals that stick straight out. And that's kind of the secret behind this round. They have a bigger post than the original Hydra-Shok, but then basically the only thing that expands is petals and not lead along with it. So you oftentimes get this weird expansion going on, and we're seeing that with our 38 plus P. So our 38 plus P, we went right to 13 1/4 inches of penetration. Our 32 H&R Magnum, the measurement I'm going to say here would likely be a little bit deeper if I lifted this block up and measured it, just because it arced down, but where it rests in this block is 14 inches in that block. So we got 3/4 of an inch more with the 32 H&R Magnum. If it were going straight, I would guess maybe 14.5 inches if it didn't curve down like that. But looking from this, both did pretty similar. I can't say one did a whole lot better than the other. What I can say, though, is for the recoil, the 32 H&R Magnum pound for pound is definitely doing more than its recoil. But looking at this ballistic gel test here, the terminal ballistics, I'm going to give it to the 38 as having a little bit more damage going on there through our real world simulation. But our 32 H&R Magnum is pretty close in performance. So very nice. Let's pull these out of the block. We'll take a close-up look at them. Then I'll shoot our steel, see what kind of practical accuracy and shootability I can get with these. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets going through plain gel, our 38 Special and our 32 H&R Magnum. These both had kind of a weird expansion going on, especially the 38 Special, where it's one side peels up like that and the other side peels back. So I don't know what would cause that, but I've seen that before with this type of ammo, where we just don't have a very consistent, expansion with those petals peeling back. And then we have our 32 H&R Magnum. It's inconsistent, but I like the fact that, at least it's on two sides there, because that'll kind of stabilize it and continue to cut as it goes straight through. As for this right here, I was thinking, yeah, I think I saw tumbling. That's obvious. It did tumble, because when you get one side that's uneven like that, it'll start tumbling around. Then you'll start seeing kind of a weird bubbly marks in the gel that aren't really from expansion cutting. They're just bubbles from it tumbling. So it makes it look like it's doing better than it actually is. So it did okay, but not great. And we go through our real world simulation. Our 38 Special did exactly the same thing, but our 32 H&R Magnum actually became more consistent there. So 38 Special here through our rib simulation and denim, and the one through plain gel. Not a whole lot different there. At 32 H&R Magnum, we actually had some lead expansion even. So just that little extra velocity there made quite a big difference there, and its ability to perform. When we look at the one going through plain gel, it's technically bigger, but the one through MDF here has just a better, just consistent expansion from having that extra velocity. So, it's hard to say which one did better. Obviously our 38 is less consistent, but it has more power, and that accounts for something. And the overall size of those weird inconsistent petals also is probably bigger, so that accounts for a lot. But when we look at our 32 H&R Magnum, that's a little bit more predictable performance that we're going to get, and I kind of like that predictability, because we know it's going to go in a straight line even after going through ribs. As where something like this, you can't really guarantee that it's going to go in a straight line like that. Now this one kind of went down in a weird angle, but it was a straight line down. As where this one, it went straight, but it's kind of unpredictable with that type of expansion. So that's a close-up look at those bullets. All right, 14 yards from the target. So I just want to see how these things shoot for just practical accuracy. And what I mean by that is, while you might be able to slow fire and get really tight groups, practical accuracy to me is like, if I'm not trying too hard, just, get a front sight picture, pop them off fast, I think I can hit the target, like kind of simulating a self-defense scenario. How well will these things do for me? So I'm going to fire 6 shots, do a reload, and then fire one more with both of these and just kind of see how these feel. So 38 Special plus P, 14 yards. See what this will do for me. All right. Same thing here with our 32 H&R mag. See how this thing feels. So yeah, there is definitely that little bit of difference there, where I feel like I can place those on target a lot faster. And being that this is over 10 ounces difference in weight here, that makes a big difference, or right about 12 ounces, or 10 ounces, I should say. So being 10 ounces lighter and still being able to hit the target faster is kind of an advantage. So 38 Special is very low recoil. It's typically roughly about like 9mm. I have a full-size pistol. I have this full-size revolver, but a little bit less. So that what I'm doing pretty good with the 38, and then I'm moving on to the 32, and the 32 is half that. It's very low recoil. So let me back it up and see how these do from a little more distance. All right, 75 yards from the target, mostly just for fun. So I just kind of want to see how these things will shoot from me from that distance. So I'm gonna fire really, really slow and try to hit as many as possible here. So 38 Special plus P. Doing so well. And those, you know, at first I thought they were drifting a little bit to the right, but and to the left. But I do think, you know, overall they're pretty much point of aim. So 32 H&R Magnum. Don't know what to expect with this. Let's see what I can do. So I didn't really see anything consistent there with where they were going. So I think just at that distance, you know, the 85 grain bullet just doesn't have quite as much momentum at that distance. So it's harder to keep it, you know, as accurate at that distance, because, you know, a heavier bullet will fight that wind a little bit better at that distance. Not wind, but air resistance while it's moving. So that'll allow it to be a little more accurate at distance, as where the 32 H&R, you know, if we had slow motion cameras down there, we might see a little bit of a kind of a frisbee effect going on. That's kind of what happens with really light bullets at distance. So, or all bullets at distance for that matter. But looking at this, our 38 Special is a pretty good option here. But, you know, this test here doesn't really tell us anything that anybody's really going to want to know. I just wanted to see, you know, its outer limits of its accuracy. And it looks like our 38 did a little bit better here. A lot better. But when we're talking our terminal ballistics, I'm going to say it's kind of a wash. And when we're talking our up close accuracy, I'm going to say the 32 H&R is a lot better. So my whole point here is, you know, with the 32 H&R Magnum, you're going to be able to put 2 or 3 rounds on target just a little bit faster than what you could do with the 38 Special+P, or for that matter, a 9mm. So if you can do that, and the terminal ballistics is pretty close to what a 38 Special+P is, and for that matter, 9mm+P, because there's not really a big difference there. You know, there is kind of an advantage here, especially the people that might have some issues. Now, I personally have rheumatoid arthritis. That hasn't really caused me any issues with shooting, but maybe as I get older, it might. And there's a lot of people with, you know, age-related arthritis or other types of injuries. And even 38 Special is kind of a handful for them. So when you're talking something like a 32 H&R Magnum that has a recoil that's not a whole lot more than 22 caliber, yet the terminal ballistics is way, way better, you know, that's a good option for self-defense. So I know a lot of people get on these videos, they get on there with the mindset of a 25-year-old man that just got their permit. I would never carry something like that. I could have this short little thing and subcompact 9mm. And if that's your mindset, this video is not for you. This is about, you know, having options. And just because other good options exist doesn't take away the fact that you could also have something else. And that's one of those weird things that I've gotten into with the people before. A lot of people are like, why would I get a 32? I could get a 38, I could get a 357. That's stupid to get a 32. It's hard to get the ammo, blah, blah, blah. Well, no one says you can't get a 38 or 357. And then in addition to that, get a 30, that's what I do, get a 32, 327. It doesn't take away from this being a fantastic option just because other options exist that are more plentiful in the ammo or maybe easier to find. So 32 H&R Magnum is better than what you think. It is a great little cartridge for the recoil. Highly recommend it. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.